Good evening, everyone. The meeting of the Climate Action Commission is officially called to order. Can we get the roll call?
Excellent. Atchley,
Present.
Baker, Edminster,
Here.
Ellicamp,
Present.
Garty,
Here.
Peters,
Here.
Hudson,
Present.
Fong, Shribs.
Present.
Thank you.
Okay, great. The first item on the agenda is general public comment. I guess before we go over the rules of general public comment for those in the audience, generally the meeting procedure is not to have public comment on the presentations, of which we have the Blue Zones presentation and Cool Petaluma. And so if you choose to make comment on either of those topics, now would be the time to do so. Brianna, if you want to go over the procedures.
During public comment, can you hear me? During public comment, the public is invited to make comments on items of public interest that are within the City Council's subject matter jurisdiction and that are not listed on the current agenda. Public comments are limited up to 3 minutes per person. Depending on the number of persons wishing to address the council, time will be allocated in equal shares totaling no more than 20 minutes. Those wishing to participate in public comment must raise their hands and wait to be called on by the moderator. Speakers are reminded to be respectful in their comments. Threats of violence and obscenity are grounds for removal from this meeting, and a countdown will appear for the convenience of speakers and viewers. Your microphone will be muted at the end of the countdown. The first speaker will be acknowledged and invited to speak when the countdown begins.
Okay, I have one speaker card for Andy Schrader. Andy?
You turn in your speaker card last and you hope that you have some time. But apparently I was first too. Thank you everybody for hearing this. My name's Andy Schrader. I was the head of Cool Los Angeles, and the Cool Petaluma recruiting was so strong they got me to move me and my family to Petaluma. Petaluma is doing a much better job than we were in Los Angeles in the recruiting, the neighborhood by neighborhood approach. And, I think given how bad the, climate summer from hell has gone, that the Cool Petaluma effort couldn't be more important. And I would encourage this body to encourage the city council to really fund the effort at a much higher level. Cool Petaluma is a really innovative approach, but the best part about Petaluma, in my opinion, is that if the city of LA was going to get it right, we would appeal to Chicago and New York City. But if Petaluma gets it right, you appeal to all the farm country, all the farm cities in Iowa and Indiana and Nebraska. Like, they're going to be able to see themselves in you. So it couldn't be more important to get everything right. We all have some really great goals that we've set. We want to get to carbon neutral by 2030, but implementation has been sadly lacking. This effort is one of the few ways that actually has a step-by-step approach to get us to the lower carbon future that we need. So I definitely say support Cool Petaluma with as many resources as you can. We need to get there quicker than ever. And Petaluma can actually lead the country as happened with the gas station permitting ban. So think of yourselves that way as world leaders. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schrader. Any more comment cards? One more.
Good evening. I wasn't really planning to say anything, but here I go. My name is Pete Gang. I was one of the people who authored the climate emergency resolution in 2019 that led to the creation of this body. And I have been following climate matters closely. Of late, I've put my attention on our transportation issues because, as you know, transportation represents around 60% of our activity-based emissions in Petaluma and in the county. So if we are to have a chance at meeting our 2030 carbon neutrality goal, we have to dig deep into the transportation realm. As many of you may know, some months ago, Ramey, the general plan consultant, did a presentation to the Climate Action Commission giving a preview of the Climate Action and Adaptation Plan that they are working on. And in that presentation, they presented their initial estimate that if we are to have a chance of meeting our 2030 goal, we would have to shoot for something like 75% mode shift from single occupant vehicle to multiple occupant vehicle or other forms of transportation. And that's a big lift. I wanted to bring to your attention today the fact that Petaluma has for the last several years been working on an update of our 2008 bike and pedestrian plan. That update is being called the Active Transportation Plan, and it focuses on one aspect of our overall transportation scene. I'm very disappointed that the Active Transportation Plan is moving forward with very little opportunity for meaningful community input. And the deadline for the ATP, as it appears on the city's website, is fall 2023, which could be a month or two away. And I'm a little bit nervous that this critically important part of our future planning is not getting the attention that it deserves. So that's my message. I wanted to bring that to your attention. It is definitely a climate issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gang. Any other opportunities for general public comment? As a final reminder, there won't be an opportunity for public comment later this evening, so now is your chance to speak. Okay. Moving on to the presentations. Number one, we have Blue Zones Petaluma Project Update.
Can you hear me okay? Okay, great. Well, to begin, I'd like to thank you for your service to our community. My name is Nicole Warwick. I am the Executive Director of the new Blue Zones Project Petaluma. I also have the privilege of serving our greater community as an officer at large for the Commission on Human Rights, and I am a climate reality leader since 2012. So the work that you are engaged in is near and dear to my heart, and I wish to thank you. In the time that I have with you this evening, I'd like to, one, orient you to what the Blue Zones Project is, provide a status update on where we are, and also outline some opportunities within which we can engage not only you as commissioners, but the community at large in the process of creating our blueprint, which we will execute over the next 3.5 years. Okay? Thank you. So as you can see, Blue Zones is a national well-being organization. We engage with communities, small and large, activating systems change through environmental and behavioral transformations. We've been at this for over 20 years now, engaging in research, exploration, and solutions that have been learned from some of the most amazing communities that have lived the longest on this planet. Our mission is to empower everyone, everywhere, to live better and longer. Okay? Thank you so much. You might be most familiar with Blue Zones as it originated from National Geographic. Blue Zones was founded by Dan Buettner, who was a National Geographic Fellow and had funding from the National Institutes on Aging. He had gone around the world to discover the communities where people were living long, healthy, vibrant lives. He identified these 5 that you can see on your screen, one in Japan, Greece, Italy, Costa Rica, and surprisingly here in California. Okay? What the research team learned from this process was that there were 9 commonalities amongst these communities that influenced their longevity, their well-being, their happiness. In these areas, you can see there's movement, having a bright outlook or a positive outlook, eating wisely, and connecting. Of these Power 9, there are many things that overlap with the work that the climate resilience movement has been engaged in for many years. If we think about moving naturally and our environment, being able to have more walkable, bikeable environments, using public transportation more readily, engaging in our green spaces and our parks. These are ways that are getting us naturally moving in our environment. They're also climate beneficial and resilient. With regards to the food systems changes, looking at transitioning to more of a plant-based diet and reducing meat consumption, which we know is also a remediative effort in the climate resilience movement. We're starting to see where we stack functions here between the work of the climate movement and the Blue Zones. And then I would lift up being able to connect, because I think some of the things that are most challenging for people who are aware of climate change and engaged in the climate work is, one, this sense of purposefulness in the work that we're doing and why we're engaged in this work, but also how important it is for us to reweave together this fabric of community and community resilience and cohesion so that we know we're not doing this work alone. This is what helps foster a sense of hope, which right now I think is greatly needed when we're considering what we're facing with climate change. Thank you. So I love this imagery. We're just going to scroll through some of these photos so that you can see really what's happening here. What we're hoping for is here in Petaluma, we get to be the next Blue Zone community. What Dan Buettner and his research team learned was that people who feel this profound sense of purpose, who are engaging in their world in natural ways, building gardens, walking, being in community with one another, eating mindfully, finding ways to downshift or remediate stress, being connected to the land and the places and the people where we belong. All of these things are lending themselves to our well-being and our longevity. Who doesn't love coming together for a nice meal, right? So back in 2009, the work sort of transitioned. In addition to doing the exploration and the research, Blue Zones was able to reverse engineer a Blue Zone community and begin transforming communities here in the United States to become primed, should you say, so that we too could become a Blue Zone community. And from the research, they tested it first in Albert Lea, Minnesota, with tremendous health outcomes, and then continued to spread it throughout 70 different communities here in the United States. Petaluma is the newest Blue Zone community project. and it is my great honor to be able to help lead this project in community. I want to lift up, this is not a project for Petaluma. This is a project with Petaluma. This project will be done in community, convening through, I appreciate your call to action, Pete, and what you were saying about having this community engagement and participation in it. And this is how we will come to determine what the blueprint is of what we're doing. So in applying this research, we're looking at how we're connecting, moving, how we're engaging our sense of purposefulness in the world, and the things that we're doing within our food systems and the way that they're showing up in our built environment, in our municipal policies and ordinances, and the things that we're offered when we go to the grocery store and restaurants, what's happening in our schools and our workplaces. What we've learned through the research is that these are the impact areas that we can come in and strategically influence through environmental and behavioral transformations so that we too can have the benefits of a long, healthy, and happier life. We do this through an impact area called the Life Radius. It specifically happens in 3 areas: policy, people, and places. And you'll see that reflected in the team that we're building. I'm hiring staff now who will take lead positions in each of these 3 impact areas. What we know from a lot of bodies of research is that genetics really influences 20% of our health outcomes. And the rest of what influences our health outcomes has to do with our environment and our behaviors. What is distinct about Blue Zones is that it no longer just primarily relies on putting the emphasis on human behavior change. But in addition to supporting the human behavior changes, we're working to strategically influence and design our environment so that it supports those behavior changes long term, ideally making the healthy choice the easy choice in an environment. Thank you. I want to lift up this so that you can see where Blue Zones projects are currently happening in the United States. Cumulatively, over 5 million lives have been influenced and enhanced from the work of our Blue Zones teams. Here's some of the measurable results that we've seen in the work. Like I had mentioned to you, Albert Lea in Minnesota began 13 years ago. We've seen a 49% decrease in medical claims costs, almost 3 years of lifespan added to the community, and a 48% increase in tourism. It's actually made it more popular to want to visit. I think we do a good job of that here in Petaluma. I think we're a very attractive and appealing place to visit. And let's see what we can do to help change the health and well-being outcomes of our community members. You can see here that there's impacts on both small and large communities. So where Albert Lea was a relatively small community to work with, we've worked with large communities as great as Fort Worth, Texas. Currently, the County of Sacramento is initiating a feasibility study to see what this would look like rolled out in Sacramento County. Well, what can I say about having a good brand, right? It really does make a difference to be able to have that longevity. The expert researchers and policy teams that we have that lend itself to the reputation. Not only is Blue Zones published multiple times, including a cookbook I highly recommend you check out, we have a new Netflix series coming out on August 30th and another book released on the 29th. These are all ways that we are not only bringing attention to the Blue Zones movement, but we're enhancing what we're doing in our Blue Zones projects, such as what we're doing here in Petaluma. So let me tell you about where we're at now. Right? I'm 2 months in the job. We are recruiting and hiring for our staff. We are recruiting for our steering committee and setting up all of the foundational infrastructure we need to be able to launch this project successfully in our community. Go ahead. The great thing that we have is that we have a really vibrant and engaged community. We have people who care deeply about this place. And it's paired with leadership that's willing to step in and take risks and chances in ways that differentiate us from other communities, not only here in Sonoma County, but within the North Bay and the United States. Congratulations for the work that you're doing to being able to halt the development of new gas stations and to be able to set climate resolutions and build a robust commission who's doing this work. And we would like to be able to join forces with you in this work. The way that we have designed this project, and I had mentioned before, we're a project with, not necessarily a project for. And this is because we're doing this work in place with our community, and the community is guiding what goals and outcomes we will be working towards. So I wanted to be able to kind of show for you how really this is a people-powered engine for transformation. And although we have this extraordinary research team and National Blue Zones team, our Vice President, Lyle Westcott, is here today to support our work. We have these global leaders who are helping us. We have the national team that's helping us. We have our local Blue Zones team, who I mentioned we're hiring up. But then we also have many layers of opportunities for our community to get involved, whether it be on our steering committee, which helps provide structural oversight and guidance, to the action teams who will be working in the various sector committees to help us engage in this work, and a whole foundation of community volunteers. This, again, just another sort of template to help you understand the leadership and our structure and how we're engaging in it. On the bottom, those committees are the action teams I had mentioned, engaging in policies. And in the policy areas is where I think we have a lot of overlap, because our policy impact areas will include the built environment and will include food systems. And so within the built environment, what we're hoping to accomplish together are more pedestrian-friendly, safe routes for community members, for students, to help support complete streets, to lift up and emphasize some of the green spaces and help make them more accessible to community members. We're also working in food systems policy change as well. And within the food policy, we're really encouraging more plant-based diet, less meat, and supporting more urban agriculture movements. Having worked for Daily Acts and the Leadership Institute for nearly 6 years, I can tell you we've done a good start. And wouldn't it be amazing if we had more community members being able to grow food in their homes? The third impact area, and you'll see here, committee. It's a lot of people building. These are our action teams. This is what's going to help us make this happen. And this level of community engagement, I think, is one of the most underrepresented community resilience strategies that we have. And that is being able to help people find their purpose, foster community resilience, and gain a sense of hope about their future. So we're just going to go through these really quickly so you can see this is like the foundation period currently where we are. We're in month 4, 5, 6. Been able to recruit staff. We've been engaging in trainings with our national team, policy experts, and are building our capacity to be able to launch this work. Okay? Lastly, I think it's very important for us to lift up the sponsors of this project, Healthy Petaluma District and Foundation. We're tremendously grateful to them for bringing us here to Petaluma. Grateful to the City of Petaluma for your support and sponsorship of this process. And I'd like to add another sponsor, Providence Health, to this, who just came on board this week. Again, I think it's really important to start and end with gratitude. Gratitude to you as commissioners, but gratitude to our community as well, to those who are here in this room who show up relentlessly to advocate on behalf of our community and the well-being of our health, our young ones, our climate. You give me hope and inspiration and help me keep showing up in this work. So I want to thank you for showing up. And you will be hearing from me. We will be collaborating, but I'd like to offer the invitation to connect at any time. I can be reached at NicoleWarwick@bluezones.com. Also on our website, bluezones.com, we have our own landing page for Petaluma. You can sign up for our newsletter to learn more. And then lastly, I want to leave with an opportunity to be able to engage with us. As I mentioned, that this is with the people. We will be engaging in our policy discovery process next month. We will have 3 weeks of policy experts coming in to work with us. The first week will be on food systems. That will be the week of September 11th. The week of September 18th, it will be built environment. I think both of these discovery processes are really important and very much in alignment with the work of the Climate Action Commission, as well as Cool Petaluma and all of those who have been doing some of the groundwork, the teams at Safe Streets and Complete Streets as well. So please reach out to me if this is of interest to you to be able to participate in this process. This will be the discovery process is where we learn of all the possible cornucopia of interventions that we could engage in. And then we will engage in a summit process in November where we discern from that cornucopia what are the key ingredients that we want to bring into this recipe that we're making together. And by January, we will have a complete blueprint and ready to activate. So I want to thank you again. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your willingness to learn about our project and also to engage me in this work together. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Blue Zones Petaluma. And while tonight's meeting isn't the forum for that discussion or collaboration, certainly I think we can do so outside of this venue. Presentation number 2 is from Cool Petaluma, City of Petaluma Partnership presentation.
And before we start the second presentation, I would like to add that we forgot to mention that there were some online comments for public comment, and they have been posted online, and they're also displayed at the back of the room in our agenda binder. Please proceed.
Let's see, how are we doing here? Hello, everyone. I'm Deb Fox. I am part of the Cool Petaluma team. I run part of the program with Natasha Juliana, who is here with us tonight, and John Crowley. I want to thank you all first for the opportunity to be here this evening. We are the other end of the spectrum to what we just heard from what's coming from Blue Zone, which is going to be a really great partnership and build off the work that we've been doing with Cool Petaluma. So I'm really excited to share with you the stuff that we've been doing for the past year and a half and talk about our new contract that we have with the City of Petaluma and talk about the partnership that we have developed to really amplify the climate work for the residents of Petaluma. Next slide, please. I put this back up here for you all. As Pete mentioned, this is what allowed all of you to be here, Rihanna, us. This vision for the future is about making Petaluma a leader in climate mitigation and sequestration, and really by 2030. So we have less than 7 years, and we are really about engaging our community to be a part of that vision, enrolling them in the vision, and having them take action in the vision. So we started last year in January of 2022, and we were one of 3 from the Cool City Challenge cities. It was Los Angeles, as Andy mentioned, Irvine with a population of 300,000, and then Petaluma with a population of a little over 60,000. all three cities left the grant and have ventured off in various capacities. And we are now a 501c3 under the Aquas Community Foundation. And so that is part of our people-funded mission, is to really engage our community to be a part of doing this work. And as part of this, developing a partnership, we analyzed all of the goals that came from the Climate Action Framework. Next slide, please. And really, we're identifying through the Climate Action Framework, through the CAP, the Climate Action and Adaptation, the city's goals, and have developed a program based off of that that is about preparing our community for the climate impacts that are coming, that we're seeing today in the news and Maui, that we've seen in our own communities, is really getting people prepared for that, and then doing a lot of community engagement that has them working together and helping us all work towards those climate action targets. Next slide, please. And what that starts to look like, one more back, is community building at the block level. Neighbors not getting trained to knock on their neighbors' doors, engage them in a team to do emergency preparedness in the face of the increasing risks that are coming, that are here, not even coming, here. We do a lot of knowledge sharing and connecting to local resources, building cooperation to do larger scale projects in the community. It's about community engagement, and really we are trusted messengers, but we're building a community of trusted messengers that can engage their community, that aren't the what I call the choir, the climate choir. This is people who are going and talk to neighbors that don't often hear that, what I call the bird song of the environment and climate, and they're actually participating and learning how to do all of these actions in their homes and with their neighbors. So we do a lot of storytelling to amplify those efforts. We do, that's the peer-to-peer learning piece. We tap our experts, which many of you have been a part of, and there's so many, our community is so rich with resources of experts, it's amazing. And we see ourselves as really become the local resource hub. And that hub is really what inspires and aligns and activates all sectors of our community to become that people-powered Petaluma that we hear Peggy talk about a lot. It's one of our favorite phrases, because we actually help become the wind in the city's sails. Next slide, please. And it's to do these topics, which is prepared for emergencies, rethink consumption, transform transportation, improve buildings, and restore nature. And I'm going to go through each of these and explain what happens on the block level, and then what it's going to look like in terms of our partnership that we are now engaging each departments in the city to amplify the effects of this work. Next slide, please. So for those of you that have done the program, there's a few of you on the commission that have done the older program, which was 8 topics. We're now down to 5 because we've re-envisioned the program to be more local and specific to the resources and what we saw our community needing. And by meeting with all of our block leaders, we were able to redefine it. Topic 1 is prepare for emergencies. And that's really one of the most important things that we can all do, is have our go bag ready, plan, understanding the communication that needs to happen. We're going to learn how to secure their homes and prepare to evacuate, which we saw in the news recently. People didn't have time to evacuate. But what we want to do is be prepared for when the big one comes. Ours is earthquakes. We have fires. We're going to have flood. We're going to have water rising. So we need our community to be prepared for all of that. And so part of the partnership element is now working with Tom Jordan, our new Brianna's climate, our emergency manager. And we're now going to be working with him to build what they call neighborhood response groups, which is, it's a national effort that is also a county effort. The county is also working on this as well, to put neighborhood groups together and covering all the topics and keep, CERT used to be the topic that everyone thought of as a program. What they ended up finding is that it was hard to keep people trained in CERT. And so Tom is working with the county, and it's this national effort to re-engage in a new way at a grassroots level to prepare our communities for emergencies, to be ready at any time, to be mobilized. And so we do that, and we also then partner with some of our other partners, as I mentioned, SoCal Emergency Prep for Seniors. All of those resources are all a part of what we give to our blocks to learn about how to prepare for emergencies. Next slide. Oh, sorry, not next slide. Sorry. Rethink consumption is topic 2. And this is really, the part about rethinking consumption is about the circular economy and really thinking about eating wisely, as Nicole mentioned, is a really important topic for everybody, is reducing food, learning about composting and the value of composting, shopping smarter, and really rethinking about whether you need to consume more, because consuming doesn't actually make us happier, right? And so, voting with your dollar is essentially what they learn under rethinking consumption. Part of the partnership elements are going to be helping to estimate the consumption emissions and working with community partners to work to get waste sorting a little bit better, so that we are having less stuff go to the landfill and it's going into the, correctly going to where it needs to be going, and obviously using less of it. And so we'll be working with, Recology and Zero Waste and a variety of partners like that. Next slide. Transform transportation. This one is really about getting people out of their cars. Again, as Nicole mentioned, this is something we all know needs to happen, that mode shift. It's also what Pete talked about with the active transportation plan. It's about getting people to walk more, bike more, and take public transit. On the partnership element, this is the part that I work with, is we're working with Public Works and the active transportation planner to really define a way to do better community engagement, to find a different way to do it, and get people, because it's one of the main things we hear out of our teams when they're done is, what are you going to do next? They want to slow their streets. Everyone knows that the streets are, there's too many cars, it's not safe to ride your bike on, and so coming up with a different engagement that allows the community to work with the city in a process that is community and the city working together as opposed to finger pointing. This is really the piece of what we're really helping our blocks help us see what they're experiencing and the city can hear, and vice versa. So it's a really great way for us to partner and come up with a better way of working together on that topic. The next topic for improved buildings, this is where we work with Rihanna the most, even though she's who we work with on all of this. In improving buildings, we're going to be helping people reduce their water and their power, and it covers information for renters and for building owners, helping them get off of gas, transition to appliances, to connect them to the rebates that are available, going solar, doing gray water retrofits, water catchment. Partners include, Daily Acts. That's their main thing that they do, right? Is helping do gray water. I have one of their gray water systems, and so. But we're also going to be working with contractors. Next slide, please. The end of this month, this is one of our first projects that's helping the city meet its goal, is getting our contractors educated about these rebates, but also a listening session to have them explain what barriers they're experiencing, and so that we can help mitigate those, not us, but the city. This is where, again, we're working together to really listen and offer an opportunity for everyone to be able to give their input. We will be doing a public education version of this down the road. We're promoting Zero Home, which is a contract that the city has that's really helping people see how they can reduce their energy in their homes with all the rebates that are available. We work with Sonoma Clean Power, the Building Decarb Coalition, the Switch Is On, and of course the Water Department to promote all the resources that they have. Next slide, please. And then the last topic is restoring nature, and that speaks to that gardens and mulching and putting in drip irrigation and putting in pollinator plants and really helping, again, connect everybody to those resources to do it on their properties. And in terms of the partnership pieces, it's going to be talking about food forest and tree plantings and neighborhood plant walks. And it's really partnering again with the local gardening organizations and Daily Acts, who we work with very regularly, Petaluma Bounty, Relief. There's a lot of great resources that we'll be promoting and deepening in terms of those actions. Next slide, please. And so to date, we've trained 209 block leaders. 137 blocks are actively engaged, which is over 750 households. And so this is one of the key outcomes, is that these people are connecting to their neighbors. Some people, we have stories of people that have never talked to their neighbor before until this happened. And now they're having, when they're done with the program, they're having regular just gatherings because they've become friends with these people that they live next door to. And so that's a really, like, the strong piece of all of this is that we are reconnecting our neighbors back together. And then this is really where the work begins. Again, going back to the neighborhood response groups and continually to engage them in the topics. As we continue to have new resources available, we now have all of these trusted messengers out there that we can continue to re-engage. Next slide, please. And we do them at places like our expo. We had over 300 people attend our expo. This is our second year that we did that. The city was our partner, and we had EV cars and bikes, and we had local bike company bring a bunch of EV cars. We had Sonoma Clean Power's induction stovetop, and we had all 5 of our topics. We had partners come and present. That was over 42 community partners coming to give resources for the public to be able to take this information home and really continue to deepen that action in their neighborhood. Next slide. And we do all of that, as I mentioned, we aren't the experts. We connect everybody to the resources to allow this to happen. Some of the work that we're going to continue to do is do a roundtable. We had our first one in May. We're having another one in September where we're bringing our community partners together to engage them on this topic of climate and really make sure that we are all aiming in the same direction, to use, again, Peggy's term of we all need to be going the same direction, and that is to meet that climate goal. And so we do other things like Ask an Expert series. We've done an Advanced Energy Center tour, Waterwise garden tours with daily acts. We've done an e-bike meetup. So we just continually find ways to engage and re-engage our block leaders and their teams and the general public. All these events are open to the general public. And then our last slide is just a reminder of our team and what we do. We're really excited about this partnership and really deepening the work and the opportunities that we're able to offer to the residents of Petaluma. And I just want to say thank you to all of you. I look forward to coming and presenting to you more as we have some really great projects, examples coming out and stories. And I will end it there. If anyone has any questions, I can answer any questions. I want to say thank you to all my block leaders. Hey, John, that showed up tonight. Yeah, I'll stop.
Okay, great. Thank you. As a reminder to the committee, during committee comment would be the appropriate time to make comments about the presentations. I will say, before we move on to approval of the minutes, we do have a public hearing on the topic of back-to-school mode shift. So if you do feel so inclined to make a comment on that topic, you may be able to do that. And then staff comment, and that would be the end of our evening. So item number 3 is approval of the minutes. We usually do this by acclamation. So if anyone has any revisions, now would be the time. Okay, seeing none, those minutes are deemed approved. Now, moving on to item number 4, public hearings and matters for consideration. So back to school mode shift discussion. I don't know, Rihanna, if you want to say anything or you want me to sort of open up the topic?
You can go ahead and open up the topic.
Okay, yeah, great. So we talked about this briefly at our last meeting, but just sort of going with what Pete Gang said earlier on the active transportation plan and the mode shift and needing 70%, 75% mode shift to meet our targets. One of the things that we had presented on earlier was from the Petaluma Equitable Climate Action Group. And one of the takeaways from that group that I found most compelling was that some of the students have not the best education or awareness around our transit system. And so the purpose of this agenda topic is to really start the conversation about how do we as a community and we as the Climate Action Commission further that effort. And so that there's a couple topics within that. I think first and foremost is spreading awareness about the ride free for students, right? And so if you're a student and you aren't aware that you can ride the bus for free, certainly that might compel some type of activity to occur. The second is just, there isn't a lot of information about the bus system. And so how do we educate our students about that? And there's, some more kind of discussion topics to follow. I do say Julia, our youth commission member, she has taken it somewhat upon herself to sort of lead in some of that regard. I don't know, Julia, if you want to say anything?
Yeah, sure. So I communicated with Shannon Britton. She is the librarian at Petaluma High School and also the head of our Link crew, which is basically a group of, she basically organizes the upperclassmen to acclimate incoming freshmen in the first year. And so I reached out and thought that it would be good to educate incoming freshmen on the the transit app, which Ben and I talked about last meeting, which was basically gives information to students really accessible about the bus systems, like the schedules and maps and things like that. So the freshman parent night was actually tonight, so I wasn't able to make it, but I do plan on attending after the freshman orientation next Monday, and as well as possibly on Tuesday there will be some information for that when students come to pick up their new IDs and schedules and everything. There'll be some information about that for them too. So yeah.
Yeah, great. So, a couple things I would like to suggest. The first is an ad hoc, which is both has the ability for a few, but non-quorum amount of commission members to attend, as well as members of the public. And so part of the idea behind a back-to-school mode shift ad hoc is coming up with ways to not only spread awareness about the zero cost and also the knowledge of the system, but also consider some incentives, be that, some prize for people that ride the bus a lot, for certain schools that have more ridership increase over time, right? And so there's plenty of ideas that people have, and part of the agendized topic here tonight is for people to discuss what they think those ideas could be, and then again to convene that ad hoc for those. One of the things that Julie mentioned was the transit app, and this is not something that I had been aware of until I rode the SMART train recently, and SMART has a big advertisement promoting this transit app, and it's just you look on your phone, it's the transit app, it's pretty easy to find, and it's a integration of all the different local and regional bus systems. And so as opposed to like a Petaluma City Transit app, which has the city routes, it's going to have the city routes, it's going to have your SMART routes, it's going to have your Golden Gate Transit routes, it's going to have your SCTA routes, and I think it even has private bus companies on there like FlixBus. And so knowledge of this app, I had a brief conversation with our transit manager around the app, and I don't think we have any plans to have a City of Petaluma Transit app anytime soon. And so short of going to individual schools and putting up posters of our transit routes, which I certainly don't think is a terrible idea, but we'll take some coordination to do that. Promoting this particular app or other apps is certainly one thing that we can do. In addition to really continuing to promote the message of fare free. I don't know if people are aware of this, but SMART is having record ridership numbers, partially because students during the summer have been able to take these affordable rides. And so now that students are back in school, how do we promote that culture and continue that mode shift, and then encourage permanent mode shift, right? And if so, that's, hey, I take the bus to school and I have the opportunity to win an e-bike for being, a super rider, then how does that, translate into becoming a permanent mode shift topic? So that is the meat and potatoes of this particular agenda presentation. Now I'd like to just open it up to committee discussion on the topic. We won't be taking any action tonight, but certainly if folks are interested in an ad hoc, we can communicate about that, and then we will have the opportunity to have public comment on this. So I guess I'll start, Ann?
While you were sort of describing that, I was reminded of an experience I had in Atlanta a few years ago where I arrived, I took the metro into town and got off and, was sort of trying to figure out which direction my hotel was in. And I was approached by a gentleman on the street who offered to guide me. And they have, T-shirts and things. And it was really terrific because I only had a couple blocks to go and he accompanied me. And I just thought, I wonder if it'd be worth setting up something like a sort of a champion or a team of champions in each school among parents who might offer to do that kind of guidance for students, say at the end of the school day.
Does any other committee members have any particular commentary around this topic?
I'd like to start with a question. So your idea is that we would convene an ad hoc that would focus solely on transit as the mode shift for students, or would it also encompass walking and biking?
Yeah, I think the ad hoc is mode shift to sort of hit the 75% reduction via mode shift. There is a Shift Sonoma County plan, which sort of references some of these topics. And so I wouldn't say it's exclusive to like riding the bus or e-bikes. I will say it should be narrowed to the topic of schools in particular. And I will also, for some of the public's awareness, there is within the Transit Committee, which also meets this particular Thursday of the month at 4 p.m., they have a micro-mobility ad hoc. And so there's definitely some crossover between what we're proposing here and micro-mobility. I will also say my understanding of micro-mobility is a little bit broader than what people might think. It's not like the scooter ad hoc. It's about what additional services Petaluma Transit can offer that aren't either the fixed route or the paratransit. And so if you have a broad understanding of microtransit, that ad hoc is open as well. And so really, if it were up to me, which it is not, but the back to school mode shift ad hoc would really focus around promoting the message of fare-free transit and the app, and coming up with some way to have a modest incentive, and then promoting that incentive, in short order, and ideally, like winter break, so that we can have an ad hoc meet, maybe bring it back before the committee and possibly other committees, so that by the end of the year, we can announce, hey, starting January 1, 2024, until the end of the school year, there is some opportunities to really encourage this kind of activity. So if folks are interested, that would be the purpose of that committee. Okay. Yeah. Councilmember Shribs?
Okay, a couple ideas, because I was a teacher at high school, so I know students a little bit and some of the behavior patterns, and I did support the bike and walk and roll to school several years in a row. And a lot of students did participate in all that, but we're talking about a major shift here, not minor shift. And in the transport, I know that there's probably about 3 buses over where I worked at Casa Grande. 3 buses would roll in pretty much every morning, loaded with students. And students have a lot of the ability to communicate with each other. So the word does get spread. So just doing little things to try to promote, try doing what we've done before is probably not going to work real well. We have to do maybe a whole different thing, and that means a lot more engagement. So to make it work, you're going to need to do more. So since I worked at Casa Grande, I can just use that as an example. But I still have keys to 2 kiosks over there, so I could actually get information into these kiosks that students pass by, so at least that information is there. We'd work with the PTSA to start organizing with them, get the principal's permission, work with, usually the librarians are usually really good at disseminating things. And then, as you said, you have to find a couple of groups, interact clubs, get them engaged, and it has to be a major push from several. There's like at CASA, there's like an earth preservation, a sustainability type club, and a couple other clubs that are moving in that direction, and a couple of environmental teachers that might be moving. So basically, you're going to have to get a full program early in the fall, not in May, where like Earth Day, everybody kind of focused on Earth Day, but that's way too late in the year, and people are like may get on board for a month or two, but then summer's here and it's all over. So it needs to be done the fall, early. And it needs to be promoted out. And you need to do this big push and have us, the ad hoc committee, really do work at go out to each individual school to be with the parents, visit with the PTSA meetings, make sure it's just a whole blast out. Every single school has a PTSA. They meet once a month. So you got to be there and get on their agendas ahead of time and get them to win them over with this concept, and then a big program. A small program suggesting a few awards. What I've seen before, it'll change it for a day, but that's about it. So, and it has to be combined with other programs like getting the Blue Zones and the Cool Petaluma programs into the schools at the same time. So that would be another campaign push to say this would be the first step of a bigger push to form a real transition of culture and behavior. You're not going to do this just by having a memo sent to principals and the like. So, so those are just some ideas of what needs to happen if we really want to make this to a go and the like.
Yeah,
Okay. I just had a couple of other things about, like, kind of about what you were talking about. So I go to Petaluma High School, and we have a Trojan broadcast thing in the mornings. Sorry. We have a Trojan broadcast thing in the mornings where it's like a stream video and all the students have to watch it. And so I was talking to the teacher about putting that on there, and maybe we could roll out like a kind of PSA about it, maybe monthly or every so often. And I also have connection to the PTSA. And yeah, I really agree with what you were saying, and I thought it was a great idea. And I agree that it kind of does have to be like a continual push to like actually implement this kind of change, because a lot of times it does kind of people move on really, really quickly from that kind of thing. I don't know.
Thank you. Yeah, I think this is all very a worthy endeavor. And, you know, one thing that we learned from the PECAC was that, you know, the built environment is going to be such a big part of the way parents basically feel if their kids can get to school safely, right? We know that Caulfield and Sonoma Mountain Parkway, and you know, we have these very fast roads in town, and there's just a lot of people that are driving their kids to school because they don't think it's safe for their kids to walk or bike or even walk to a bus stop. One thing that I know that Blue Zones has been involved in is quick builds to do like bulb outs for streets and things like that. So I think we have some potential collaboration with groups that, you know, can put together these plans. And I really do feel like without the built environment piece, people just will drive. And as long as driving is the easiest, most convenient, fastest thing to do, that's what they'll do. If you make biking, walking, taking the bus the more convenient thing to do, that's what they'll do. And if we want to achieve a 75% mode shift, I think we need to think comprehensively like that. So I encourage anyone on the committee to also explore the built environment option. Thank you.
Okay, great. At this point, I will open up for public comment. If any members of the public wish to make a comment, you can fill out a comment card and present. Not seeing anyone, we will move to committee comment. Yeah, Councilmember Shrimps?
Okay, one of the ideas, I was talking to Pete earlier the other day, and about the active transportation plan. And so far, I participated in it. I've brought it up. It's a map, interactive map. You put a pin in there and then make comments about what could be improved or what you want. And so there's various ways of doing it. But so far, the way I'm looking at it, it looks like there's been a lot of adults that have put things in, but not a lot of students. And I really need, I think this push out, the very first thing needed to push out is the safe routes to schools, and to get the PTSAs and the principal to organize a committee on every school site, at every school, that could combine teachers, parents, and students, to create this committee who would get engaged with this interactive map, but focus on their school. So in other words, we should clear out all the comments in one fell swoop, or give them a second map, say this is for safe schools map. And every school would be highlighted in, let's say, green, or not green, but maybe blue. And then every school would then say, okay, within your half-mile radius, we want to have the students make comments about every single street in their school route to school. How do they get to school? What was needed? What corners are unsafe? And really gather that information, particularly from every single school, using these committees. And it has to be sort of like a separate from the ATP map that's there now, which has there's like several hundred comments on it, but they tend to be more major routes type things rather than specific to that particular, trying to get there, or trying to get to my park, or trying to get to the library. How do I do that from my school? So I'd say a really positive step I think we might be able to take is if the ad hoc committee forms on this, to maybe make that the first go around, saying we want to get the participation, and by getting them to participate in that map, get that committee going, then that committee could form the basis for a complete mode shift, and really use them to also talk about the bus routes, different ways of maybe micro-transit, what that might be, getting more focus on the bikes and the scooters and the like. And also we need to do a lot of education around electrified micromobility. There is a lot of instances, there's some places where they're actually saying no electric bikes for people under 16, let's say. So there needs to be a whole lot of education about electrification of your micromobilities and the safety features and so that's another part of the program needs to be put forth. But we need to take it stepwise, and so there has to be 1 step, 2 step, 3 step. And if this ad hoc committee can go, then maybe step 1 might be the ATP map, get that going, because we need that right now. And then do some safe, quick builds with our city transit folks, our streets folks, that would come in and just show that we're going to take action on what you said, do some quick builds immediately, get them engaged, get them to be really bought in this. Yes, we're going to take action on what you say, get a couple of quick builds done, and then continuously all year long, continuously hit them up every single month. We're going to have a bike day. We're going to have a scooter to take. They have like at Costa, they have like a car day. So the auto shop teacher is, okay, let's have our cars out there. Well, you need to have your e-bike folks come out here and scooters, say, okay, a demonstration of these 10 or 15 different things that might be available to them, along with some training, have the police there, do things. There's a whole series of things that could be done. So I'm promoting a pretty big program here of what needs to happen if you want real change. I could see the ad hoc, and I might even be willing to help out with it, since I'll be working weekly at Costa doing things with the horticulture class. So I can help out at that campus, but we need to actually find someone for every single school to do that. Anyway, that's sort of like what I would promote doing.
Yeah, great. Thanks. Exciting. And certainly, I guess if you are interested, members of the public, or want to share this, certainly on the city website, there is our contact information for all the commission members as well as our staff liaison. So, okay. I guess sticking with Councilmember Shribs, if you want to start on committee comment.
Just to interject really quickly, so is there going to be a formal ad hoc developed? And if so, who will be on that ad hoc? A maximum of 3.
Is that 1, 2, 3? Yeah, 2. Yeah. And, I think one of the things that several committees are trying to do is to cross-pollinate the work of different committees. And so, I would certainly encourage someone to be from this commission to be on the microtransit ad hoc. So I don't need to raise hands, but I do encourage that to occur, and vice versa. So, yeah. Okay.
Okay, thank you. I just needed the clarification. So please go ahead with committee comments.
Right. Okay, just I've got a little bit of a list of things I've done and things I'd like to promote. One is just what we just talked about. There is a micro-mobility conference coming up that's in Alameda. It's for the entire U.S. It's the U.S. conference this year being held right here locally. And I've signed up it's a 2-day, I think it's September 19th and 20th. And I've signed up for both days out of my own pocket. I'm going to be paying for it and going to learn everything about micromobility. And there's supposed to be like 500 folks showing up from all the trades and all the topics, including government folks as well as trades folks, engineers and the like. So anyway, that's coming up. If anybody else wants to join, or I could switch off. My ticket's good for anybody, so if I can trade off, I go one day, someone else wants to go a second day to go see, I'd be willing to actually share my ticket with them. Then let's see, might as well start at the top up here. There was a night out where the police and fire were out there and had lots of folks come in looking at the fairgrounds, but we could actually look, but it was nice to visit the fairgrounds and take a closer look at it, at what's available there. But that was an opportunity. It was really nice, and lots of social services were being provided there. So we may want to actually next year participate in that and be able to get some input, because a lot of, and this, climate change being a social service might be worthwhile. Then at the North Bay Watershed Association meeting, there was several talks. One was on just workability, that the need for recruitment, the number of people that are retiring and doing service work within the needs of like water and wastewater, which is very important for climate change. That whole arena, the number of retirements are going to be huge over the next 10 years. And so like several industries are going, okay, where are we going to get the new people? So there's a huge need out there. It turns out that our Santa Rosa JC is one of the better campuses within the whole Bay Area of trying to promote workability programs within what we need from services. There's an environmental training group that actually helps out with regulations. And if we want to, and one of the things I'd maybe promote coming down the line here is it would be for both the actual workers, on the line workers, for their safety regulations training. It's sort of like OSHA, but for environmental regulations of how to be safe with nature and the environment as you do your work, and also what you need to watch out for. So we could get nonprofits, contractors, and city workers all within the same work group as a possibility, and get it's a 10-day certificate. And we actually can get our contractors to agree that would be part of contract work, is that they have their workers certified through in this environmental regulation type training. So that's just another possibility to bring up later. There is SFEI, San Francisco Estuary Institute, has been working on not just sea level rise, but also of what the impact might be of sea level rise, not only on saltwater intrusion into groundwater, but now also just how that groundwater is going to rise here within several of our bay cities. And as the groundwater rises, along with sea level rise, the groundwater also rises, that there's going to be a huge impact on our underground infrastructure. all the pipes and wires, anything that's near the river that's above groundwater level right now, but might be inundated with groundwater in the future with sea level rise. So that's the studies that are going to be happening here. And so the Watershed Association is going to be joining in and participating in that. There is a talk I attended last night on ADUs, and it turns out there's over 162 that have been reported that have been built here in the last few years, and that this is going to be a whole new thing to help fill our housing. But there was concerns about both the hardscape, the amount of surfaces that will include, as with any housing, you have roofs, now what that changes in neighborhoods, as well as parking. So things that, from a climate change point of view, it's supporting in the density in housing and then parking. So it's just continuous topics to work on. I participated in a webinar on En-ROADS and listened to them. That was yesterday morning. And they were focusing on trees. So there is a promotion by Republicans right now that, we're going to solve climate change we're just going to plant a trillion trees around the world, and that'll solve the problem. And then the En-ROADS folks, which work with MIT, looking at modeling, they went through and actually tested this through their model and compared it to other models for climate change and actions that you can take. And yes, if you plant 1 trillion trees, yes, we can reduce it from 3.3 down to 3.1. So you get 0.2 degrees, basically, reduction. But that would take a huge effort, more land than we actually have to plant trees in order to do that. And that includes preventing deforestation. So the message there is trees are good for many, many reasons, but that's not going to be our sole solution. And we need to work on the other 100 other small solutions. Let's see, I talked about micromobility. I talked about the ATP already. And from the City Council, the main topics recently that we're seeing come up, especially with planning, right now it's going through staff, is currently the downtown overlay and density of housing and the like, which are main topics. So that's just another topic we may want to bring to our group here at some point in time, looking at from a climate change point of view, what do we really need to transform our community for climate change and have input on those topics. So housing density may be a huge factor here for us. And that would affect transportation, affects everything. Let's see. Talk about that, got that covered, and got that covered. Okay, that's good. I think I got that all covered. Thank you.
I have just a brief bit of news. We recently purchased an induction stove, and I live on the east side, and housing was from the 60s, so luckily we already had the 220 circuit available, made it a lot cheaper. Got the rebate from Bay Rent Home Plus as well as Sonoma Clean Power, and made it very affordable. And anyone that, I know it's a topic of discussion out there that it doesn't cook as well or things like that. Having cooked with it for a month now, it is far superior, in my opinion. It boils water so much faster, so much easier to clean. You don't have to worry about carbon monoxide and other pollutants in your home. And so if I can just, evangelize a bit here on the joys of induction cooking, please let people know. And if they're not quite there yet, that's okay, but we'll get there eventually. So if anyone has any questions about how to go through that process of obtaining the rebates, please feel free to reach out. Thanks.
I just have one brief comment, I guess, somewhat in relation to Councilmember Shrib's comment on the downtown overlay zone and the notion of upzoning and more density. And, that does seem like a policy discussion that might be pertinent to this committee. I do know, similar to the ATP, we will likely have the climate action and adaptation plan coming up here in the next several months. So 2 very important plans will be up for commentary and discussion. And so do encourage folks to have that engagement. one of my personal observations from some of the community discussion is maybe a lack of understanding or, dedication to density. And, some folks that maybe are inclined to consider themselves part of the climate action movement may not necessarily agree with some topics related to upzoning or greater density. And so I do think as part of the work of, Cool Petaluma and Blue Zones, I encourage, the importance of transit-oriented development, upzoning, density to be part of those discussions and part of that education. Because if we do agree that that's an important policy tool we have, I think as trusted ambassadors, that it's somewhat up to us to help open minds and open hearts to that conversation. So that is something I do encourage and hope that gets in front of us. Councilmember Ann?
Thank you. A couple things that I wanted to share. On August 2nd, California became the first state in the country to pass a whole building embodied carbon policy as part of Cal Green. There's a quote here from one of the primary movers on it. It can take up to 80 years to overcome embodied carbon's impact through strategies that reduce energy usage or operational carbon. The planet doesn't have that time. Embodied carbon must be reduced in addition to operational carbon. So part of some of the measures incorporated in the new legislation include it's primarily targeting non-residential construction, commercial projects over 100,000 square feet and schools over 50,000 square feet. If they are reusing a structure, 45% of the structure and enclosure must be reused. If new construction, they're required to conduct a whole building life cycle analysis and achieve a 10% reduction in embodied carbon against the baseline. There's also prescriptive alternative path. That's getting into the weeds a little too much for this evening. There are also Tier 1 and Tier 2, as there are in many parts of Cal Green, that are optional and can be adopted at local level. Tier 1 for reuse structure bumps that 45% up to 75% and bumps the 10% reduction against the whole building baseline to 15%. Tier 2 adds to that 30% reuse of interior non-structural elements, and it's a 20% reduction against the baseline whole building embodied carbon. So I'd like to ask Councilmember Shribs to convey my desire to the City Council to see Council adopt Tier 2 of Cal Green in this section, the embodied carbon section, because as the person who offered the quote said, this is really very critical, and we are not going to achieve our common goals if we don't address embodied carbon as well as operational carbon. Second bit of news, today, the U.S. Department of Energy released program guidance and state applications for home energy rebates. This relates to $8.5 billion for both home efficiency and home electrification and appliances. The announcement said that these programs will save American households up to $1 billion in energy costs each year, create over 50,000 jobs in residential construction and other sectors, and prioritize low-income households and disadvantaged communities when deploying funds. So I thought these were two excellent bits of news in the climate and built environment arena. That's it. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you. That is great news. I just wanted to make a few comments on what we've heard today. One is we got a few comments emailed to us before the meeting. I know they're going to be posted publicly, but one of them was talking about reinstating Zoom for these meetings. Reinstating Zoom for these meetings, and I just wanted to say I think that's a good idea. As a former special education teacher, I think it's important to allow access to people who can't necessarily be here, and also a former stay-at-home mom. So I think I just wanted to put that out there that I agree with that request. Also, the request that there's more community input in the bike and pedestrian plan that's coming up soon. I think that's, community input is super important, and I think the bike paths and pedestrian paths in Petaluma, do need a lot of development, and I know that there's a group of people that are really passionate about making it happen, and so I think it's important to get a lot of input from the rest of the community. News in my world, I'm going to RE Plus next month, which is the solar and energy storage, like an international conference in Las Vegas. So I'll have some information about what's new in that world for you next time I come here, which will be not next month because I'll be there next month. I went on a tour of a co-housing community in Sebastopol, and it was a really cool little community event where they did 3 tours, so you could sign up for a tour at 2, 3, and 4, and then there was a potluck at 5 to just sit and be a community together. And they were showing how they have this community building where they all eat together, and then these buildings have the solar, and this person has an induction stove, and this person has a heat pump water heater, and just showing kind of all of the things that their little community was doing in making positive changes in their community towards climate action. So I just thought that was a fun event. And regarding the mode shift topic, I just had a couple of ideas, which, I think there probably are some local businesses that would be willing to donate some kind of like an e-bike or something like that. That would be like a good prize for people who are competing on the app, especially if they got credit on the app, donated by this person. And then the other idea I had, which I think Commissioner Hudson probably would have more of an idea of how to do this than I would, but some kind of Instagram or TikTok challenge thing, because that's kind of where especially the teenagers are socializing these days, is through those kind of apps. So either a contest or some kind of cultural thing, where it's cool to be I'm on the bus or whatever. So those are my ideas on that. I think that's all I had. Thank you. Oh, and I did want to thank, there's a lot of people that are out in the hallway talking still, but I just wanted to thank everybody for coming, because I think it's so important that, the community is engaged in these conversations. So thank you, everybody who's here.
Great. The last item is staff comment.
Thank you. And just to tag on to what Amy said, pun intended, but social media campaigns are really impactful for high school students, and we could always do a hashtag. And that'd be one way to quantify ridership usage. I just have a few staff comments for this evening. Everything so far is still on track for the Climate Action Plan to come to the Climate Action Commission next month. We are at this point planning to do a workshop style meeting, and it's been suggested that another ad hoc be formed with 3 members of the Climate Action Commission and 2 members of the GPAC. And this ad hoc would meet mid-September and mid-October to provide feedback on the document. And so if there are members of the Climate Action Commission that would like to participate in the Climate Action Plan ad hoc, I guess you could let me know before the end of the meeting tonight. And on the topic of mode shift, we are in the process of purchasing 5 e-bikes for the city fleet. 2 will live at the Waterfield office and 3 will live here at City Hall. And actually, it's going to be 6 total. We're buying 4 for City Hall and 2 at the Waterfield office. And the last thing that I want to update you on is the EV charging infrastructure master plan. We have completed all the site visits for that with the consultants, and we are moving on to the design phase for that plan. And we'll have another presentation in coming months as we get closer to the completion of that plan. before we leave this evening, are there 3 commissioners that would like to participate in a joint ad hoc for the climate action plan discussion? Yes?
My question is, other than those who might join the ad hoc, will the commission as a whole or all other commissioners also have an opportunity to provide input on
So-
the cap?
The September meeting will be in a workshop format. The format has yet to be decided, but it will be, so that will be an opportunity for commissioners to participate and provide feedback. And then also, again, the climate action plan will come back in October.
And will we get it substantially in advance of our September meeting so that we'll have a good amount of time to review?
That is the hope. The document is not in my hand. Once it is in my hand, I will be able to provide it to you.
Thank you.
Just a question, since it's that type of committee, which is then going up the ranks, I'm not sure if, am I allowed to be part of that committee as, since I'll be seeing it later as city council?
I don't know. I would have to get back to you on that.
Okay, but I'm hoping a couple folks here will step up and do that.
I'd be interested to be on the ad hoc if, unless others feel strongly.
I guess I just have, it's just a it's like a one-day sort of discussion.
So it's not, it doesn't necessarily have to be a one-day discussion. The information I have at this point, and it's still in the formation phase, is that the meetings would occur between mid-September and mid-October.
Oh. Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
I guess currently still formed ad hocs from the previous round, would those topic level ad hocs still be able to meet? Is there?
Those ad hocs have not been dissolved yet,
Yeah.
so they can continue to meet. So this would be in addition to.
Okay, yeah. And I think the important part is the work with the General Plan Advisory Committee. And, you know, I'm curious on this back aspect of it in that the adaptation element of the Climate Action and Adaptation Plan has not been previously reviewed by this body, and nor has it been reviewed by the GPAC. And so if we are intending to include adaptation in this effort over the next 2 months, then I think that's very important. I'm personally a little skeptical of such a large topic being discussed in such short order, but that is a very important aspect of the ad hoc as being proposed, is the work with GPAC.
I would be interested in doing it. I just don't know what my time commitment, because I'm going to be traveling a little bit in that time frame. So if I'm available, I'm happy to be a part of it. Did you say you need 3 of us? How many of us do you need?
It's a maximum of 3.
A max, okay.
I suspect Ann Baker might be interested because she's been very focused on adaptation and has really wanted us to pursue that. Obviously, I can't volunteer for her, but I think it's probably worth checking in with her.
Okay, I will do that, and I will circle back around with time constraints or time commitments. And that's all that I have.
Okay, great. Thank you. This meeting is adjourned.